Hello, the game has started. It's me to go fast. This isn't a great rack, but I can sort it out to some extent with Gork. But would walk be better? It would be nice to get rid of the U and the W. DG, not a great combination, but I prefer this to Gord because it's removing the U as well. Pretty good. I have darings and gradins. Walk takes an S. And drawings in column 7. I'm not sure about darkings. ING words are always tricky in terms of whether or not they take an S. Just wondering if there's anything through the A. Not that I can see. Well, this rack has certainly turned around from the opening rack, which seemed a long way from a bingo. Just having a look in rows G and I to see if my bingos play. And Gradins plays in row I under the A of walk. I think the highest scoring spot is column 11. I'm wondering if drawings has an anagram. Wardings or swarding, perhaps. Can't see anything through the U. My opponent taking a while with his opening move, so he could be close to a bingo. But if he does bingo, he'll be providing more floaters, so I'm optimistic that I will be able to play. Great, only 21 points, and my bingo does play in column 12. Now, does it play in row J? Well, only to make ups, which isn't good enough. I was looking for a multiple overlap. That doesn't exist. So, darings. This is better than Gradins. It doesn't place vowels next to premium squares. Now, what about going one square? So that's 78. Let me see what this scores. 77. Oh well, as I was. Not great. Too many vowels. I do have a scoring tile in the H, but it's likely that I will have a vowel-heavy rack leaf, so I could be faced with a similar problem next turn. I do have a 79-point lead. Ho is the only short word I can see. Well, high as well, but I think ho is better because the I is a better tile to keep on my rack than the O. 14 points for my opponent, that's good. Now, there is a nice spot for ho down here. Not a great score, 22 points. But I'm struggling to see anything better. I wonder if there's a play in row C running through this D. Can't see anything. I can't see anything which doesn't burn the S, and burning the S doesn't generate enough score. So Heeds, for example, 26 points. Only 4 points more than Ho. Well, the S is worth at least 8. Can't see anything coming down column 8. So I think I will stick with this. Great, I draw the Z. And the Z goes well with vowels, so although I do have a vowel-heavy rack, as expected. I should be able to do something with it. Z-O-E-A-E is good. That plays in row K, making he. Just looking in column 8 at the top and bottom to see if I've got a play using the Z. Oh, wow, I have. I've got Caesar at the top, which is going to score well. 75 points. Can't see anything at the bottom. And I have gaze in row H at the right-hand side. That will be 42 points. Now the row K play of Zoea, only 33. But it retains the S. Okay, well, certainly my preference is to play Caesar if that remains available. I think Gaze and Zoea are quite close. Both retain the S. Again, my opponent taking a while with his move. But he played Renning last go, so he had a pretty awful rack. He played off 6 tiles. So, well, he has been fortunate. He's drawn the blank and been able to bingo. Now, I think Caesar is good, spelt ER as well as OR. Although I have a slight doubt. I am going to try it. I am retaining one more vowel, which is a shame, but 75 points is a big score. Just pausing in case there's something better created by my opponent. But I don't think there is. Well, let's see if this stays on. If it does, I've got 6 vowels to think about. But I do have a scoring tile in the P. Not that I expect to score very much with it. Great, Caesar stays on. Only 10 points for my opponent. I retain an 80-point lead. Epee is the play which leaps out. Playable in row K, making H-E. It does burn all my E's, which is a shame. So, is there an alternative? I note that my A can go after Z to make 8. So, do I have a play across here? Don't think I do, which is a shame. When you have a lot of vowels, it's always useful to look around at the high-scoring tiles on the board. Sometimes you can use them to score well. But at the moment, I'm seeing nothing better than epee in row K. I don't want to play in column 13 because I don't want to place a vowel next to this premium square. 15 minutes on my clock. So this is what I'm thinking about. It's opening up quite a hot spot in row L. But the board's fairly open anyway. Another grim rack with 6 vowels. And no scoring tiles this time, but I've got Agio on my rack. Again, leaving 3 vowels, which isn't great. Now, what about this Z? I've still got an A for going after it. And when I'm talking about this square, I'm really looking at plays in row D, which run through the Z and are followed by the A. So if Gozar was good, that would work. But it's not. So is there anywhere for Agio? I note that epee takes a T in front for future reference. I could play Geiger, but that's keeping 4 vowels. 18 points for that. 14 minutes on my clock. I could play Ogive through this V, but that's going to score very little. But it is going to burn 3 vowels. And I certainly want to play off an O and an I. I can't do anything with this hot row L. £10, which is terrible. Maybe changing's better than that, given that I'm keeping 3 vowels. I don't think ogive is a good play, especially as it's setting up a really hot spot in this triple letter square. And Geiger, 18 points, which is an okay score, but keeping 4 vowels. I don't have a play in column 8 down from HE, which would score quite well if I did. Igapo not available through the P. So I'm going to change. I've been defeated by this rack. Only 4 E's to come, so I will retain it. Well, I do now have some consonants, but I have the U-W combination again, which isn't good. So I'm going to struggle to play both of those off. I do now have 2 tiles which can go after HE, the W and the M. Great. That spot's available. So do I have a 5-letter play beginning with either, which reaches the double letter square? I do, in the sense that I have metic, but that's keeping WU, and it would be nice to split that up. I do now have a T for going in front of epee. I could play coom and M, but that's keeping a vowel-heavy rack leave, and I think I've had enough of those for one game. So do I have a play beginning with M, which is at least 5 letters long and uses the U? Can't see such a play, so I may go with metic. It's going to score quite well. Is there a better play? 11 minutes on my clock. Can't see anything beginning with the W in that spot. So I'll go with metic. 35 points. Well, that's quite a kind pickup. I don't have a bingo, but it's fairly balanced. And I'm going to struggle to split up the W and the U in one play. But a play of who, for example, would leave quite a balanced rack. And that would play in row L underneath epee, and that would disrupt row M as a bingo lane, as well as the column 4 for front hooking epee. My H can go underneath the C. This triple letter square underneath the A of Vab's not particularly useful because V takes nothing under it, so it's not going to get scored twice. My lead remains at about 80 points. There's still a blank to come, and the remaining tiles look pretty bingo-y. So another good reason for starting to shut the board down, which who would achieve quite nicely. It would just kill 2 really hot bingo lanes and without creating any new ones. Okay, my opponent has created a new bingo lane. I'm just wondering if howd is good. Howed. I don't think it is. So do I have something else hot? Mick takes an E and an O after it, so Howd would have used an O in that spot. I think Mick takes an H as well, so I could play whose. Which I think is quite nice because it doesn't take an S at the end. 49 points is a good score. I am opening up row O, well, so be it. I'm burning 5 tiles, which increases my chances of drawing the blank and expedites the end of the game. Not great keeping the U, especially with 2 to come. But the leave isn't vowel heavy. I do draw one of the U's and duplicate the D, but I've got one of the best scoring tiles in the X, and ducks is good, so I may be able to play that somewhere. Great, my opponent challenges, he loses 5 points. Ducks plays in row G, making lax. So I do have a spot for that. Now I've also got exude on my rack. No, I don't. I don't have a second E. Okay, so I have ducks. Great, only 26 points for my opponent. Now, a better spot for ducks is here. $31 points. Is that the best spot? Now, this bottom right-hand corner is pretty hot. But I don't think I can... Well, I could play just XU. But that would be keeping duplicate D, so I think this is a better spot. There are still 4 T's to come, so column 4 was pretty hot, and ducks kills that. And it's killing row M. Great, I have bowards and obdures. Row I is a bingo lane for bingos ending in E. I have rosebud. Now my rack has turned around because I've been dealing with non-bingo-y racks. My opponent has blocked bowards, which would have played in row N. So, am I really unable to play any of my bingos? I can't see a bingo through the E. 8 minutes on my clock. Obdures doesn't play. I'm just having a moment's doubt about DIS, but I think it's good. Should know my 3s. Oh well, I don't need to worry. This doesn't work. So rosebud doesn't play, obdures doesn't play, bowards doesn't play. So I think I'm giving up on bingos with this rack. There is ID to play through. Can't see anything. It's the G. What about budgerows? Well, this is a bit annoying, this word, because there is a word like this which doesn't take an S. Now, I know budgerow is good. It may not take an S. Let's find out. If this stays on, I have a great rack. I have Oterine, Notaire, maybe a third. Great, look, my opponent has challenged, and budgerows is good, so fantastic. Now, does Notaire play? It does, because Uta is good, so I've got Notaire in row N. And that works because EF is good. I've also got Notaire in row I, so I think I've got an unblockable bingo here. Oterine as well. Let me just see if notaire plays down here. It doesn't. R only takes an E after it. 34 points for my opponent, 7 minutes on my clock, 11 tiles left, including the blank. If I play notaire across here, I'm opening up the possibility of a 9-timer in column 1. And my opponent could catch me or massively cut my lead. But I may have to just roll with that, because the row I placement does the same thing. So, notaire. What about Oterine? Does that play? It doesn't. And is there a third? Massively high probability bingo, possibly the highest 7-letter bingo. Oterine, notaire. Well, I'm not seeing it. So, I think I will survive a 9-timer. Let me see what this scores. 6 minutes on my clock. So 80 points. This is going to take me to 470. For a 240 point lead, I think. Yeah, there's very few high scoring tiles left, just the F and the Y. So I think a 9-timer is not going to be enough for my opponents. Pretty good. That looks very close to a bingo. Rosulate through. I have outlearn. Outlearn onto the N. Rosulate through an S. My opponent again challenges, loses another 5 points. Great stuff. I can't see a 7 with this rack. I don't think outlearn has got an anagram. No E's left, so unfortunately my opponent is unlikely to be playing in column 15, so he'll probably take out my bingo lane, which is a shame. I do have an E for going after the R, but I don't have any high-scoring tiles to really maximise the score. Fantastic. I was just going to draw attention to that other distracting hotspot, which my opponent has taken. And he's emptied the bag, so this is going to be a really ideal end to the game. So outlearns 77. Just wait for my opponent to formally end the game, which he doesn't do. My opponent ran the clock down all the way from 13 minutes down to 0, then used up 59 seconds of his overtime allotment, and then 1 second before the game was forfeited on time, my opponent lost contact or quit, thereby delaying the end of the game by a further 3 minutes. Anyway, pretty slow start to the game, which then exploded into life at the end with 3 back-to-back bingos to close it out, leaving the final score 268 to my opponent, 550 to me, a winning margin of nearly 300 points. So a massive, massive win. Let's see what I missed. It was me to go fast, and I was thinking about Gawk, and in the end went with Walk to get rid of the W and the U. Probably not much between them. My opponent's rack, he plays Pan, and I had a good pick and had Darings. Not a nice rack for my opponent. He plays Renning, which sorts it out. And now I have the first of several vowel-heavy racks. But they weren't bad enough to change. And I played Ho for 22, which I think is okay. Nice rack for my opponent. He has a bingo. And I was able to come back with a 75-point Z play. Horrible rack for my opponent. He plays Vabs. Another vowel-heavy rack for me. Now, did I change here? Let me see. No, I didn't. I played épée for 17. Yeah. And I could have got 30 for it up here, but that spot isn't good because it places a vowel next to this premium square, so épée is fine. My opponent's rack, he plays Ab. My rack. Now, was this the rack I changed? I think it was. None of these options are good. Keeping 4 vowels is horrible. Possibly these two, C10. Yeah, I think Oidia or Aidoi across here probably slightly better than changing, but changing is fine. My opponent, who I noticed had both blanks, he played Chi for 22, and this was a tricky rack. It wasn't vowel heavy, but it was very non-synergetic, especially with the W and the U. And I played Metic for 35, keeping UW. I was looking for an alternative, and possibly, well, I don't think MU is 6 points better than UW. Maybe it is. K4. Well, twice opens up row O, so it's not. So I think Metic is fine. Does my opponent have something here? He doesn't. Not a bingo. This was my rack. I played Who's for 29. Showed for 50 in the same spot. That might have been worth considering. Probably better to begin the word with the S or rather than the W in terms of the tiles which can go underneath it. Anyway, my opponent's rack, he wasn't in a position to take advantage of row O. He plays Philo. Now, I played Ducks at L3. M7. Decks available across here for a lot more points. 16 more points. Keeping W. Well, possibly better. Certainly considering score and rack leave, Decks is better. But the advantage of Ducks is that it's taking out both bingo lanes, whereas Decks in row M leaves column 4 available, and there were still T's and bingo-y tiles out there. So the gap between Ducks and Decks isn't as much as 16 points. My opponent's rack, he plays It, and now this was the beginning of my bingo run. Rosebud did play where? D15. Renning takes an S. Wow. So Rosebud available in column 15 for 92. That was the play. Budgerows, 30 points less. And it's opening up column 15, so a big gap between Rosebud and Budgerows. I didn't think Rennings was good. My opponent plays J. I have a fabulous pickup. I have Notaire at N1. And then at I1, I have Otarine and Notaire. My opponent's rack now. Did he miss a 9-timer? Nope. But he did have a bingo, flat iron. He played Philo instead. And that left Outlearn available. But I did also have Rochley and Torrley on my rack, which I didn't spot, and they would have played in row I. However, Outlearn was better. That remained available. At this point, my opponent disgraced himself. And the end of the game was delayed. But pretty exciting game. I hope you enjoyed it. And I will see you next time.